After everybody had come over and the guests were enjoying themselves, she decided that she was going to make a speech. At the beginning, she just thanked everybody and stuff, and it was pretty normal. Then she moved to our parents and started thanking them for having adopted her into the family. Then she thanked them for treating her better than their own daughter, which is why she always had such huge blowout parties for her birthdays, but I never did. That was where things started getting weird because I felt like it was getting too personal for me. Anyway, it was true, Angela always had been treated slightly better than me and got away with most things. But for her to bring it up like that, especially in the context of birthdays, since the reason I did not have such huge parties was because I did not want that, was just weird. Then it started to get worse. She started flexing about how she had always been the better daughter to our parents and how she was so grateful to them for having raised her differently so that she didn't turn out to be a failure like me. I don't know on what basis she called me a failure and herself a success, but she was just saying things at that point, and it was getting pretty nasty. She just kept dissing me over and over again, and all I could do was stand there in shock because I had not expected to be put on the spot like that. She made fun of my appearance, my grades, and even my style. Lastly, she wrapped things up by speaking about how grateful she was that I was such a failure because that was probably why our parents had adopted her, so they would at least have one daughter who was not a total loser. After she ended her nasty little speech, everyone was dumbstruck, including our parents. I couldn't even bring myself to move or say anything because I was so shocked and humiliated at that moment. Even though Angela and I did not get along at all, this was something really extreme, and I don't think anybody had seen it coming. Then, while we were all frozen in our places, my aunt decided to break the tension and walked over to where I was standing so she could hand over an envelope to me. It was really confusing, but I took the envelope from her, and she told me not to open it until she was done talking. So, I did just that. The second speech of the evening was somehow even more insane than whatever Angela had said and managed to top even her in terms of the shock factor. That's how we found out that Angela hadn't been adopted by any adoption agencies. She had been adopted by our parents from our aunt herself. My aunt announced that she had been planning to talk to our parents after the party to tell them that she wanted to speak to Angela about her real parentage, since now that she was 16, she was old enough to handle the truth. Back when she had gotten pregnant with Angela, she was not ready to be a mother yet, but she did not want to terminate the pregnancy either. She and her boyfriend were not even committed and did not have any plans to marry, so she went with the next best option and asked my mother, her older sister, to adopt her baby. My mom gladly agreed because she wanted a sibling for me, but given the complications in her first pregnancy, she wasn't sure if getting pregnant again would be a good idea. So, this was a good solution for both of them, and they decided to work it out but kept it all a secret from everybody else since they didn't want the family to start gossiping. My aunt talked about how she had always believed that if her daughter was being raised by my mother, she was going to grow up to be a wonderful person, but clearly, she had been wrong, judging by the incident that had just taken place. No decent person in their right mind would ever try to humiliate their sibling the way Angela had tried to do, and my aunt was ashamed of her. I finally felt a bit vindicated when my aunt said that, because I felt like there was finally somebody to stand up for me. Then my aunt told me to open the envelope. When I did, I found a blank check inside, and she told me that I could fill in my details, and whatever amount I quoted would be mine. Initially, she had planned on handing this to her daughter as a birthday gift, but now that she had seen how her daughter had turned out to be, she had no interest in giving her any sort of gift at all. Then my aunt walked out of the party, and Angela completely lost it. I'm not even joking. She literally came running towards me to grab the check out of my hands, but I was quick enough to take it out of her reach. My parents had to pull her back because she was acting so hysterical. It did not even matter to her that she had just found out who her actual mother was, all she cared about was the blank check. But I decided not to fight with her in front of those people, so I went back to my room and locked myself in. I did not leave my room for almost 2 hours. I could hear things going on in the living room downstairs, but I did not bother myself with it and just kept talking to my friends so I could keep my nerves calm. When I finally came out of my room, everybody had left, and Angela was crying on the couch with my parents seated beside her. As soon as they saw me, my parents told me that they were really sorry about everything that had happened at the party, and then they made Angela apologize to me as well. But it was very obvious to me that she did not actually mean the apology. She was only saying sorry for the sake of it because our parents were sitting right there, and they had probably instructed her to apologize to me. I knew that she was unwilling to even act sorry, so I said nothing to her apology. Then my parents told me that now that Angela had apologized, I needed to give that check to her because it was rightfully hers. It was then that I chose to finally speak up, and I told them I was not going to do that because it was not rightfully hers anymore. My aunt had planned to give it to her, but after what she had done, it had been handed over to me right in front of them. So rightfully, it was mine now, and they could not emotionally manipulate me into forgiving Angela and handing over the check to her. After I said that, Angela started crying as loudly as she could, so much so that it felt like she was trying to drown out the sound of everything else. But I did not allow that to get to me. I kept trying to speak over the sound of her crying, and I said that for years they had both treated Angela like she was above everybody else. Now she had actually started to believe that, because otherwise, she would never have thought that she could make such a humiliating and nasty speech about me in front of so many people and get away with it. Nobody in their right mind would do such a thing and expect the victim of their actions to be fine with it, except for maybe my parents and Angela, because they were just that entitled. However, I had had enough of this, being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home, and that speech Angela had made had been the last straw.